Hello everyone, this is Faith at Faith and Books. How are you doing? I'm going to do a Victober update and then just talk about a lot of book-related stuff. So my voice might not sound so good. I got really sick this past weekend and I'm slowly recovering, but left me with a bad... I completely lost my voice over the weekend, which is why I couldn't do a weekend update for Victober. But let's see, how am I going to talk about all this stuff? I've really been affected by the Hamas terrorism thing and the, Israel's response and everything. I don't know why, it just hit me really hard. So it happened, let's see, they did the attack on October 7th, and that was the last video I made, and that was when my grandson was having his birthday party, and so we didn't even find out about it until the evening, because we were just busy. And then the next day, pardon me, I have a cough drop in my mouth, I can't talk without a cough drop. The next day I was taking my husband to a play at a local theater for his birthday, so his birthday was October 5th, it was October 8th. And the play that I had picked was one that, as a theater close by to us, that I did not know about before. We thought it was going to be like some really bad production because it's literally it's literally over an auto mechanic shop. Like you have to walk up these metal steps that look like a fire escape to get to the theater. But once you got inside, it was really nice. And the production turned out to be absolutely amazing. But it was The Chosen. So I don't know if you're familiar with this book. It's by the author Chaim Potok, Chaimpotok. And they made a movie too about the book. Like I remember reading the book when I was a teenager, and I remember seeing the movie at some point. It stars Robbie Benson. He played Danny, and I know that Rod Steiger played the Hasidic rabbi, Reb Saunders. Anyway, if you don't know the story, it's about these two Jewish boys growing up in New York City at the tail end of World War II. And one's Hasidic and one, I guess, is Orthodox. I'm not sure what he was. But, and they become friends, and it's just about their relationship and the conflict between the Hasidic community and the other Jews in the area. And there's a lot of conflict after World War II, when all the news came out about the concentration camps, and there were all these refugees that didn't have any place to go, and they went to, Israel formed a new state and all that stuff. So to go see this play the day after Hamas's attack was really poignant. And the thing is, we went to a matinee, and they had bussed in people from the Jewish senior living centers, because the audience was packed. It was completely full. It was all these old Jewish people, and to sit and watch this wonderful story, if you're familiar with it, with all these older people, it was just it really moved me. So anyway, just to tell you about the play, it was the play's author is Aaron Posner, I think, and he whittles it down to just the four main characters. So there's Reb Saunders, who's a Hasidic rabbi, and his son Danny, and then there's, I forget the other father's name, but his last name was Malter, and then his son is Ruvain, who's telling the story. Ruvain happens to be my husband's Hebrew name, and so it's from his perspective. And everybody who acted was great. I mean, it was really, really well done. But this guy, Ethan Miller, see this guy here? He carried the whole thing. Even though the others were good, he was magnificent. He had such a presence, such a great voice. And, he was just spectacular. And he's young, he doesn't even have that much to his credit. So if you're into theater, look for Ethan Miller. Is it Miller? Am I saying the right thing? Yeah. because he's going to be a rising star. He was fantastic. So anyway, so that's how my weeks began. That was a Sunday matinee. And then my grandkids were sick, and then I got it by the end of the week. But the thing is, the whole thing just cast a pall over the whole week, because everything I read had anti-Semitism in it. Even something as benign or innocuous as Nancy Drew. So Nancy Drew, The Hidden Staircase, this is the revised version that they revised in 1959 or something. So I wonder what the original, written in the 20s or 30s, was. But the bad guy, the evil financier who is kidnapping people and all sorts of things, is Nathan Gomber, which is a Jewish German name. And he's the evil villain in the... See, there he is trying to kill Nancy and her dad. Anyway, so that was kind of like, oh, right, okay. And other than that, like, if I ignore that, I enjoyed it. It's fluffy, but it's really nostalgic, and it's fun to look at the little details. I love all the descriptions of the food. And we were saying in the group that the illustrations we really enjoy the illustrations. So I'm enjoying it. I'm ready to read the next one. But, here I am reading Nancy Drew, and there's anti-Semitism. And then I finished Moonfleet, which was my Victober thing for the prompt, new to me author. And I would give this book maybe 3.5 stars, 3 stars. I like the atmosphere. It was really kind of quintessentially Victorian in the atmosphere and the characterizations and the plot and everything. So I did enjoy it. But I had trouble. I found it morally ambiguous. I would not read this to a child or give it to a child to read. It's considered a children's book. There's really gross, scary things that happen in it. Now these are spoilers if you probably have never planned to read Moonfleet. But there's a scene where this 15-year-old boy steals something from a coffin. So, okay. And then there's the whole idea of a church being haunted. There's the main character. The main character is taken in by this guy named Elvizier, something like that. Elvizier. It turns out he was Dutch, and then he moved to Moonfleet, which is the name of the village. And we're supposed to be completely sympathetic with him. And in the beginning of the book, his son has been killed by this magistrate who's trying to stop the smuggling that goes on. So in the book, smuggling is absolutely okay. And they're very angry that the son got killed, of course, and he's very grief-struck. But, there's no question that why did he put his son in that position by bringing his son into smuggling? Like, that's not question. Or that, if you work for the government, maybe you should do your job. And, I don't know. So what happens is there's a scene, it's an absolutely horrible scene that I would not have a child read, where this man that we're supposed to sympathize with tortures the man who is responsible for the death of his son. And it's really morally ambiguous. Like, no, I didn't accept that. And then there was anti-Semitism. So they escape and they go to Holland, and this jeweler, this evil Jewish jeweler, does this terrible, he steals the diamond and does this terrible nefarious thing that sends them to prison. Now he sort of redeems himself in the end, but to me that was like a big plot hole. Like, it did not make sense to me how he did it. It really didn't make sense to me. So I couldn't get away from anti-Semitism. Even though I was trying to, I was trying to forget about what horrible things were going on. And, no matter what I read. So, I don't know. I haven't gotten to any anti-Semitism in Little Dorrit, but, Dickens had it too. And then I'm also reading The Way We Live Now. I've fallen a bit behind because, frankly, I just haven't had a lot of stamina to read. And it's kind of slogging for me a little bit. I still don't really like any of the characters. Even the ones that you do like are so weak, or there's one where you really they're not that well fleshed out. And I hear that, so Anthony Trollope is a kind of a special case. He definitely has some anti-Semitic tropes in his writing. He might have evolved as he wrote, because I do think that he tried to be sympathetic, but he couldn't quite get out of the worldview of his time. But he does try to sometimes, if the Jewish person is a main character, try to make them maybe nuanced, a little bit nuanced. No Jewish. I mean, in Can You Forgive Her, the Jewish person is like evil, just so evil. But anyway, so I haven't gotten to the part where that comes in. I've only seen a couple of mentions about Jews, just in kind of an offhand way. But anyway, so there's that to come, to see how he handled anti-Semitism. I think he was trying to be better, but maybe just wasn't quite there. That's what people were saying in the Discord group. Anyway, so there was no getting away from anti-Semitism this week. So I put this down, and I started reading this instead, which I need to get this read. But hopefully I'm going to get my steam back up and get back into this. Little Dorrit has really fallen by the wayside, because I was going to listen to that, right? But my husband hooked up my phone to the car, and it went crazy, and it did really weird things, and it would not let me listen to Audible in the car. So I couldn't do that. So then I was trying to listen to it when cleaning the kitchen, but the 7-year-old grandson has taken to doing his homework at the kitchen table. So I can't do it there. So I've been doing that there, and I don't want to say no to my grandson doing his homework there. And then I was sick, so I was trying to listen to it, but I kept falling asleep. And then I'd have to figure out where I was. And so I'm only up to chapter 11. So it is, I wanted to do a chapter a day. And what is it? Today's October 18th. So I'm 7 chapters behind. So I have to do the 11th, right? So I don't know. Do the math. Anyway, but I wanted to talk about a couple other things too. Because there was another issue, because with this whole horrible thing going on between Israel and Gaza, the media has really come under scrutiny, I think, in some quarters. I think a lot of people just buy whatever is said, hook, line, and sinker, but if it happens to be in their echo chamber. But there has been some scrutiny about reporting things, and it's so funny that in The Way We Live Now, I'm just in the chapter where Charles is just skewering the press, and how they, it's so good, it's so good, how they're reporting on this election with Augustus Melmotte, who's standing for Parliament, but he's not English. I didn't even know that could happen. Anyway, but he's really having fun he likes to make fun of the press. He really got annoyed at the press and how biased they were. And then, at the same time, I'm reading, and I've barely read any more than the last time. I'm reading this to my grandson. But we haven't had that much opportunity to read it, because I lost my voice. We don't read it on the weekends. We just read it over breakfast on school days. But we've been having days where we're late, or like just things, it hasn't been working out. But in here, this is such a clever book. It's another book that I would if I was homeschooling, I would use this. I mean, I was even having a conversation with him about how you can't believe what the press says, because you have to be discerning and wait a while. Don't jump to conclusions, and wait and see what comes out after a few days, or just you have to make sure that you understand the bias that's going on. Because she is also skewering the press, where the pushcart war was started by the truckers in New York because there were too many trucks and the traffic was absolutely terrible. It's very humorous. She really exaggerates things in a very funny way. And so they keep, they're annoyed by the pushcarts that take up space and they can't park, and they get in the way and they slow down things. So the truckers are against the pushcarts, and so they start this war. And she's so adeptly skewering the press. There was this community paper that was published by a trucking company that was free, like in candy stores and stuff. And sorry. And they kept publishing about how pushcarts are a problem. That's what the people say. And then some bigger newspaper picks up on it because they just keep repeating the story over and over again. And so it starts to blow up. Anyway, it was really good. So I thought that was funny that, I'm reading two different books that are both targeting how bad the press is at reporting facts in a non-biased way. So let's see. What was I wanted to end on a happy note. Well, two things. One, so sometimes I go over and watch, I think his name is Vince at Revenant Reads. He's the one that started Historathon. I like his channel, even though we have some overlap in what we read. We both read Longitude for Historathon, but not a whole lot. But he put up a really interesting video called I Studied Latin for a Year or something like that. And I'll put the name down. And I had caught an earlier video he'd done about trying to learn Latin on his own. And if you don't know, I'm a perennial Latin student. I study, I get up to a certain point, and then I stop studying and I lose most of it, and then I start all over again. It's just the worst way possible to study Latin. And the last time was right before COVID. I took it's the third level of the National Latin exam and did very well on it, I'll have you know. But since then, I have not really studied very much. I tried to study Latin via Ovid, and I got into that a little bit, but then I had to stop because I just got overwhelmed and too busy. So anyway, my oldest son, wants to study Latin. So we've been saying that we're going to study together, but we're both too busy. He's got 2 young children. He works. It's really hard. So he wanted to use the same sources that Vin happened to use at Revenant Reads, which is the Orberg, the classic textbooks. It's, I forget what it's now called, Familia Romana or something like that. And I have the books. We do have the books, and we did try to use them. But that kind of method that works, it's a very popular way of learning Latin. It does not work for me. It just doesn't. And I kept putting it off because I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to have to go through all the pidgin Latin to review what I need to review. I'd rather sit down with a grammar book and just copy over the paradigms, and chant them to myself and wake up my brain that way. So what I decided to do after being inspired by Vin's video is I pulled out this book, a primer of ecclesiastical Latin, which is actually the textbook. I took an online class almost like 10 years ago, and this was the text. It was for, I was taking theology online, and they offered Latin. So I started up with this again. So far I'm enjoying it. I'm doing some lawn things over there. So I'm starting up with this, and this is much more my style. It's much more my style. So I'm just going to go back to this and try to learn some Latin this way. Oh gosh, this is getting long. So I wanted to end on a happy note because what I pray for is peace. Yesterday, the Pope called for a day of prayer, fasting, and abstinence, and I did. I prayed all day. I fasted. I abstained. Everything, and it was a dark day, but I started thinking that we have to focus on people who want to bring peace, because the loudest voices and the voices that we hear are the ones in power that that are vicious and unjust and all that. But there are people on the ground who are peacemakers. And I just want to, since I've been sharing picture books here, and this would be my third one. I shared one on St. Jerome. I shared one on the Canticles of the Creature, a retelling of St. Francis of Assisi's prayer. But I want to show you a book I've had. I mean, I must have had this book for 25 years or more. And it's called Oasis of Peace, Neve Shalom Wahat al-Salam. And it is the story of a village outside of Jerusalem that's dedicated to peace. And they bring Arab and Jewish children together to go to school together, to learn each other's languages, and to not be afraid of each other, to understand that they're humans and that they can live with their differences. So it's a wonderful story. My grandson started to read it. I pulled it out. So this is from so long ago, and they're still trying to bring peace. But you can never give up, right? You can't despair. It's just, I'll just show you there's the kids in the school. So this was, from a long time ago. They mentioned 1991 in it. It doesn't have when it came out. But my oldest child was born in 1990, and I probably bought this. I remember I bought it before she could understand it, like when she was 4 or something. So, yeah. So it's really a hopeful idea. And I thought, whatever happened to this place? And I looked it up. I'll leave the information for their website. They're still there. They're scrambling because of the war. But they still are so dedicated to bringing understanding between these two sides that can't get along. And I really believe in this mission because they did that with Irish children, Northern Irish children, the Protestants and the Catholics. They did that for years and years and years. And I don't know if they can do that in the same way here. Because in America, what they would do is they would bring over Irish teens or even middle schoolers, one Protestant, one Catholic, and they would come over for a month. And they would live together in a host family's house. We did this twice. And they would get to know each other. Like they wouldn't know each other back in Belfast. But they would get to know each other's here. And they would go to each other's services or prayer, mass. So like we had to go to church twice on Sundays. We would go to mass, and then we would go to the Protestant or the Presbyterian service. And we did that with one set of 2 girls, and then with the other set, our neighbor across the street who was Baptist took the Protestant. But anyway, so I believe that this, it seems like a long shot and really idealistic and pie in the sky, but I think if you keep at it, you just can't despair. And you just have to keep at it. So this is a beautiful story, and I will put their website below so that you can read about these people that are really trying to bring peace. And another thing is, I'm sorry about the leaf blowers. They're so noisy. Ugh, they're omnipresent in the fall, aren't they? But anyway, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, also there is this youth choir, Jerusalem youth choir, that is made up of Palestinians and Israelis, and 20% of Israelis are Arab Muslims. Hey, did you know there's an Arab Muslim on their Supreme Court now? Anyway, so they sing together, and they were going to come to the United States to do a tour in late October, and they were coming to D.C. October 26th, but they can't now. But they're going to do a concert on October 22nd via Zoom. So if you're interested in watching, they're so talented. It's really a great idea. I'll put the information below. And I'm not going to be able to see it, I don't think, because I'm going up to visit my daughter up in Pennsylvania this weekend, so I'm probably not going to get to it. But anyway, maybe you would like to see it. All right, I really have talked long enough, so I need to stop. I hope you're doing well. I hope, you can read and focus. It's a little bit hard sometimes. But yeah, so, all right. Okay, then. Take care. Bye-bye.